Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Football Clowns Anonymous. This is your boy, Kurtis Pinkney, with your co-clown, Ren Smith.
Skull Vikings.
Very sad skull Vikings indeed. And we come to you with playoffs in sight. We've completed a wonderful
Playoffs.
Playoffs. It's honestly, it's the most magical time of the year. This is my Christmas, now until February 9th, I think it is, or, early February, whenever the fuck the Super Bowl is the most magical time of the year for me. We had a great 2024 season, a lot of intrigue heading into weeks 17 and 18 to kind of figure out what the rest of this playoff bracket is. We had a wonderful, maybe not for Mr. Ryan. I'm gonna give you the floor here in a sec. We had a wonderful historic game to wrap up the season. Two 14-win teams. Never before in NFL history, has there been two 14-win teams go head-to-head. Most combined wins in a football match, a regular season, and I think even postseason football match. Unfortunately, It was the Lions. I won't even say eking out. They motherfuckers snatched a shit 1 seed, and the Vikings are the womp 5 seed.
A 14-3 5 seed, which, if you had told me at the beginning of the season, and you can go back, the nice thing about this is you can go back all the way to the beginning of the season where we literally had preseason episodes. That's the nice thing with this pod that we're doing here. You can go back and hear my disgust at what I was expecting from the Vikings season. If you had told me that we would be a wild card team going into the playoffs, I would have been happy. However, it's the way in which we do this that always makes me sick. We always wait until the moment where your hopes are the highest, and everybody is riding high on this Vikings team, as well they should have been. I mean, nine wins in a row at that time, but they were just completely outclassed from start to finish by this Detroit Lions team. It was very sad to watch, and it was. I mean, I spent the whole day, I spent the whole season disrespecting the Vikings. I spent the whole day yesterday hyping this up in front of my 1-year-old son who doesn't care, and in front of my wife who was like blown away by the stakes and like couldn't wrap her head around this, and was like, she's a big Dan Campbell fan and was just like, fuck Dan Campbell today. I was like, yeah, babe, you tell him. And yeah, the rest is history. You can't go, you know what? They're not my clown of the week simply because I cannot wait to the clown of the week segment to get this out of the way. You cannot show up to a game of that caliber, of that importance, where you are talking about 2 home games to make the Super Bowl versus 3 road games to make the Super Bowl. The stakes could not be higher. You cannot show up to that game, I don't care how good the Lions are, and not score a touchdown in the entire game. 9 points, one missed field goal, and 3 made field goals, and that's your whole stat line. And Jahmyr Gibbs has 4 touchdowns. You know what? Hats off to the Lions.
I don't think you didn't put enough emphasis on how they did not score a touchdown, because that was
the red zone. The red zone stupidity is they're not running the ball, and they're targeting. I mean, hats off to the Lions. Great game plan. Basically, just send the house at Darnold and make him make bad decisions, because there were several times Jefferson's open and he couldn't hit him. Jefferson
for sure had the Lions defensive coordinator. I'm sure he just got put on the radar for a couple of head coaching jobs.
He should be. It's a master class in how you make chicken salad out of chicken shit. Their whole defense is full of scrubbed. Or I mean, we don't want to disrespect.
They've got a lot of injuries.
Yeah, the whole defense is hurt.
Injuries.
Yeah, and I mean, and the Vikings defense kept us in that game for the whole first half, and I was super happy to see that. But you got to cash in those red zone drives, and you've got to have a commanding lead when your defense is outplaying the Lions offense. You've got to take a commanding lead and make them play from behind. I'm not saying we would have won the game, but the game's very different if we score on 2 of those 3 deep, like inside the 5 drives. We try to out Dan Campbell by going for it on 4th down. Excuse me, have we done this all year? No. Why are we trying to do it now? I get you're trying to win the game you're trying to make a statement in Detroit, but you are leaving points on the table also by going for it on 4th down when it's not been, you're inside the 5 and you try 3 times. It's not like you're on the half-yard line. I don't know. it's a hard one because part of me is like kick the field goal, but on the other side, like if you score that touchdown, it's a huge momentum swing. I don't know, but either way, you only carry 9 points in at halftime. There's 20 seconds left in the half. You shank the kickoff to put it at the 40 so that they can run one play and get into field goal range. Come on, like just how much? What do you have to do? We picked off Goff twice in the first half. Like, come on. Harrison Smith, the active leader in interceptions, catches the ball from Jared Goff. He threw it to the defense. Good for you.
To the defense.
To the defense. And you did nothing. All right. I got to digress. I can't do this. But
shout out Track Pass Sports.
Fair enough. But I again, hats off to the Lions. Great season. They absolutely deserve the 1 seed in the NFC. They should have been it really all year. I'm glad we gave them a run for their money. But again, it's the way you go to the 5 seed. And now there's going to be a 14-win 5 seed. That's, spoiler alert, not going to win. So good job. Terrible.
Yeah,
to yourselves.
I would like to put a little bit of color to Ren's rant. Last night, my man was he was not in a good place. Had a little bit of whiskey in his system. He let's just say
factual.
He was the group chat was going crazy, and it was a one band show. He was a one-man band.
One man band.
That's the one. Yeah.
Let's go with that.
Yeah, it was Ren being very upset the whole night, and I can understand it. But I will admit, the only thing that the Vikings did wrong was fail to execute. I didn't mind the aggressiveness in the red zone because you're playing a Lions team that, as they showed in the second half, it's just only a matter of time before the dam breaks. And basically you need to, stockpile as many points as you can before that dam breaks, because as soon as that shit turns on, all of a sudden Jahmyr Gibbs has 4 touchdowns, and you're like, what, when did this happen?
What happened?
And it's exactly what happened, and I haven't watched enough Vikings football to know how Sam Darnold has done under pressure up to this point, to know if it was, a game plan thing or if it was just maybe the moment was too big for him. I can't quite tell, because I think just about every one of those red zone drives, like there was a very easy opportunity for a touchdown. And I would have to imagine these are the plays and opportunities that they've been executing on all season to get them to be a top 5 offense, to be a 14-win team. And the shit just fell apart. The defense held up their end of the bargain. I don't think there's any argument about that. That hit that Jahmyr Gibbs took in the second quarter, I felt that. We were texting about that one. I was like, God damn, bro, that you could hear the pops through the broadcast. Like both teams were on fire.
They were motivated. They wanted to. I mean, they came in with the motivation and the sort of determination that they needed to. Van Ginkel's an absolute monster, and yes. I'm glad he's on. I told my buddy that's a Lions fan last night, I'm glad he's on our side. Yeah. But by the end of the night, I was singing a very different tune. So
and I will say, if they would have converted on those red zone opportunities like they should have, they would have 1,000% won that game. No doubt in my mind. Not a single doubt, because they would have been up like 28 to 9 or 10 or whatever it is going into halftime. And
they still could have let that. They still could have blown that up. But maybe
sure. But like it takes us, like, if you look at that, like, what is it? Sam Darnold was like 18 of 41. Like, and most of those incompletions were in the red zone. Right. Like if you turn that around, like I have a little bit more of an optimistic take on that game, or maybe they'll be able to turn it around against the Rams. I guess spoiler, I did pick the Rams as well, because this is probably about to be the most Vikings end to a season ever. One of the better offenses you've sported in a while, better seasons you've sported in a while, defy all expectations, blah, blah, blah. Kevin O'Connell should probably get coach of the year, all that fun stuff. And then you're going to flop because Matt Stafford's really about that action. He's been there before. And Sam Darnold, one of the questions I have is, were the lights too bright for him?
And if so, what does that tell you for this week?
Yeah,
right? Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, traveling to LA against Matt Stafford's Rams, who, they started off a little shaky, but in this back half of the season, kind of nice. Well, we'll see, I guess. But
yeah,
I don't know.
we'll get our chance to talk about that game eventually, obviously. But spoiler alert, have the Rams as well. Not because I want it to happen, obviously, but we'll just have to wait and see. Stafford's got that experience.
Yeah,
Darnold doesn't, and I think the Lions drew up an amazing game plan on defense to really give him. But and I think in some respects, on some of those throws, the lights were a little bit too bright for him, and that's what concerns me going forward. In addition, damn well that Sean McVay was on his couch with a bowl of popcorn watching how to beat Sam Darnold. So, on yesterday, send the house. So they will. And do you happen to know what are the two teams we've lost to this year?
Oh shit! Was the Rams one of them?
The Rams in LA.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
I guess where this game is at.
It's in LA. So yeah, sad that a 14-win team has to play on the road, but at the same time, it is what it is. Play better, right? So
yes, sir.
We'll have to go ahead and see what happens here. But hey, on a brighter note, I just wanted to say thank you, sir, formally and on the air, for inspiring me to place a bet on the Tampa Bay Bucks to win the division. Preseason odds at plus 320, sir. So well done on that. I know we had to kind of sweat it till the very end, and for a little while there, it looked like the Bucks were going to blow a win and in game, and the Falcons were going to sneak in and steal it. But
the Bucks were trying their hardest to win Clown of the Week. I had, bro, I was like, I might need to write a whole ass novel for this, bro. You absolutely cannot fuck up the division to losing to a Saints team that, for all intents and purposes, looks like they gave up halfway through the season. You cannot lose a playoff spot to Spencer Rattler with no Alvin Kamara on the field, bro. That is completely unacceptable. The fact that it took
they tried though.
Oh my god, bro! I was like, this cannot be real life, because you and I are both Baker Mayfield fans. Like, we are on the record as stating that we want the Bucks in the playoffs because they are a very interesting team, and
Baker's that guy. The way he takes off and just runs somebody over. He wasn't even sliding in this game. He was just running dudes over, running for 20 yards on 3rd and 15, and then running somebody over at the end of the play. He's like, I'm not sliding. This is for the division. Bro. Hell yeah, it is, Baker. You go.
On the other side of the coin, fucking Bryce Young out here doing his best, insert good quarterback here impression to and Michael Penix, he had a decent game. I guess he's not, lighting up the stat sheet, but I mean, what was that game? 44-38 or something crazy like that.
Yeah, they went to overtime. I actually think the Falcons might have won if the Bucks game hadn't been decided, because I think they gave up. Because they know. They know, right?
I did see on Red Zone. I was watching the overtime, the final drive, and it was very apparent that they were just kind of, the defense was just kind of
we win. And of course, Carolina wants to finish strong. Bryce Young was playing for his lost. I mean, he lost his starting job earlier in the season, so I had a note, and I'm gonna go out of order just because I can, but basically was gonna ask, is Bryce Young starting next year?
1,000%.
I agree.
This back half of the season, like, he's looked like the one overall pick that he was meant to be.
The Heisman winning GOAT that Carolina drafted him to be.
Yeah, just floating the little things over, floating the ball over the defender to hit. I don't remember who that was. I think it was Thielen on the sideline to, get him down to the 1 or whatever. Just the little intangibles that made him that. Yeah, just nothing, just a little nothing crazy. I was just like, oh, okay, I see you. Size doesn't matter. I got you, big dog. Yeah, I don't know what it is about getting benched that has made Bryce Young turn back into, okay, yeah, actually I'm the GOAT. But I for sure think that he is starting next year. And to be honest, like, the way that the Panthers performed in the back half of the season, the NFC South is going to, which I think we said this in the offseason, I don't remember, but I think the NFC South is going to be wildly entertaining next year. if the Bucks keep playing the way that they're playing, I would like to see them keep that roster intact in some form or fashion. I know Mike Evans is getting up there. Chris Godwin's going to be coming off the what is it, ACL or Achilles? I don't remember. And your other half of that note is, does Penix start next year? I think that's I don't want to say it's an obvious yes, but I would be pretty surprised if the Falcons, seeing that they were on the, cusp of a playoff berth, starting Penix on these past few games, if they turn to a Kirk Cousins who looked, for all intents and purposes, washed.
Completely washed. He may have I'm pretty sure going into last week, I don't know if he held this, but for someone who didn't start the whole season, he was still leading the league in interceptions, which is just absurd and should not be happening. So he was donezo. I think he's donezo. He may. I don't even know if he'll be starting on a team next year. We'll see. He might be the backup.
I don't think.
But because he got. I mean, they gave him a big contract in Atlanta, so I don't know.
They're gonna need to eat that, which is not going to be great. But I mean, you could try and flip it and reverse it. Maybe the front office knew what they were doing, taking Penix at 8 as an insurance policy. But it's going to be a tough pill to swallow regardless. But I think there is reason for optimism with Penix. And then we have the Saints. Womp womp. So basically, it's going to be the NFC North, where the Saints are the Bears, and then you've got the Lions, Vikings, and Packers as your, to carry the division, if you will.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't think that two of those teams are going to win 14 games next year, probably. But I agree with you as in a top-heavy division, and I do think it'll be interesting to watch. I do think that with that in mind, we're going to want to look at the preseason odds again. We looked at them this year. Looked at those preseason odds to see, who was the underdog basically to win the division and took advantage of that. We may want to consider that again next year, because I'm going to go ahead and guess the Bucks are favored. And I'm not saying they won't win, but it could be anyone's division, and it could be a tight race towards the end, where getting some of that extra odds boost, I guess, might give you an advantage, similar to what we have at the Bucks this year. I do think that.
I will say the only reason I took the Bucks in the division this year is because, they had won the year previously, and they were the third betting favorite so I think it was in order, the Falcons, Saints, Bucks, Panthers to win that division. Yeah. And I was like, there's no way that you guys are disrespecting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have pretty much brought back the exact same roster and won a playoff game the previous year, and saying they're not going to win the division.
Atlanta was just viewed way too favorably going into the season. It was much easier to expect that there would be issues with them gelling, and with Kirk Cousins being good, coming back off an Achilles injury, midway through last season. It was much easier to just expect this team will underperform than it was to expect that this team was instantly just going to be instant greatness, plug and play, put everybody together. That doesn't often work.
100%.
I guess it worked in the case of Go Darnold, but most cases it doesn't work. So
accurate.
Yeah.
Before we move on, do you want to touch on some of you? It looks like you hit on a few little something over this. Weekend.
The clowns that you were listening to did flub on the Bucks. We took the Bucks on the spread minus 13.5. I think that was the right side of that bet, because they just really tried really hard to just mail it in basically at the beginning of the game. But I was successful actually hitting on, I didn't talk about this last week, but I had some little extra action here. I had Jags plus 4.5. Mac Jones had them kind of feeling it for a little while. I did a thing where I bet 4 units by my own standard, which is like double a standard play, on the Lions minus 2.5. Partially half, the 2 of those units were because I thought it made sense. The other 2 was, I want you to pay me for being sad. So that paid. Panthers plus 7.5 was a nice one too. One of my favorite bets of the weekend, excluding the division winning, which was my favorite bet of the year, was right before the game. I bet on the Ravens defense and special teams to score a touchdown at plus 350 odds. They were playing against Bailey Zappi and the Cleveland Browns. I was like, this may not happen, but it should not be plus 350. This should be like plus 100 probably for a 50-50
when you
play.
sent that text, that brought a smile to my face. That was a good one. I was like, okay, I see you, big dog.
I should spend a little more time scrolling props, because there's just some things that are mispriced. I mean, I like to think of myself as being bad at props, but every now and then you see something and you're just like, wait, hang on.
Nah,
wait, what?
We're not doing that shit. Yeah.
You're kidding, right? So, yeah. Anyway, it makes it interesting. But yeah. So anyway, from a betting standpoint, it was a pretty good weekend. Other than our flub on the Bucks to cover that spread. Other playoff news: Mahomes has disrespected Joe Burrow by not playing, because Mahomes sat on the bench and somehow got revenge on Joe Burrow by not playing. The Broncos obliterated the Patrick Mahomes-less Chiefs and clinched the number 7 spot. And I just wanted to say I'm sorry for your loss. I know you were excited and hoping that Joe Burrow found a way to just kind of sneak his way right into there right at the very end.
The Jets did their job, which I didn't think I was going to be saying that sentence coming into this episode.
Tua being out doesn't help, but
details. But yeah, I mean, I'm sad the Bengals didn't make it. I wanted to see them in the AFC playoff race. I'm pretty confident the other 6 teams did not want to see them in there for obvious reasons. I mean, they're probably the hottest team to not make the playoffs and that I could think of in recent memory. I mean, they've been like, how many 30-point games did they have? However, while I am sad that they did not make the playoffs, I really thought long and hard about making them clown of the week for not making the playoffs. It should never have come to this shit. Absolutely unacceptable that you've had multiple games, and I've gone on this rant before. Like I'm not going to rehash it, but like think about week 1, dog. 16-10 Patriots. Come on, fam.
In Cincy.
Come on, fam. Like that's unacceptable, bro. 4 and 13, whatever the fucking Patriots ended up with, fired their head coach 0.083 business seconds after they lost the season. Like, bro, like
the ESPN notification like 26 minutes after the game. That's crazy.
Bro, I had the shit in the drafts from like 3 weeks ago. Like that, it's crazy that it's just completely unacceptable.
Did they stop him Did they like stop him in the tunnel? Did he do his post game interview? Like,
bro tripped his ass on the way to the locker room, so he couldn't make it there. They were like, actually, you know what, you had a good run, big dog, but it's all, we'll take it from here. Like you can't. It's just unacceptable, man. And then, they're probably going to lose T. Higgins because they should have paid his ass in the offseason. They can't afford to pay him this offseason because you already know Jamar Chase is about to get the stupid bag. The stupid bag in the offseason. This guy, I think, I don't know. I didn't go back and double check, but I'm pretty sure he's got the triple crown. Most receptions, receiving yards, and receiving touchdowns in a season. Only one of a handful of players to get it over the course of the NFL history.
He's getting paid. He's getting paid.
Yeah. I don't know what that contract looks like, but I'm guessing it's going to make it tough for the Bengals to pay T. Higgins or justify what T. Higgins deserves, because honestly, he's a wide receiver 1 on literally any other. Well, almost any other team. There's only a couple other teams that I could think of, but it's just this season.
It sounds more like it. You're bringing up the Bengals and Patriots, flub in week 1. It sounds more like it's not really clown of the week, and more that you're considering a candidate for a segment we have yet to do, which is clown of the season.
Clown of the season. Oh
clown
my
of the
God.
Season.
I think you might be right.
Because the Bengals, I mean, you can make them clown of the week if you want to, but they won their game. They control what they had to control. But you're right. It shouldn't have come down to that. But the reason it came down to that is because they just stumbled and bumbled their way, especially early in the season. They finished on a hot streak. Joe Burrow, I think, ended the season with the most touchdowns. He had like 42 coming into the game.
If he's not, he's got to be pretty fucking close.
Yeah. And for that to be on a team that didn't make the playoffs, unacceptable.
Yeah. And again, Jamar Chase's stats. I think I saw something like they had a defensive player that's got like the most interceptions or something crazy like that. It's just, which their defense wasn't great. I mean, that was a reason that they obviously, if you're putting up 30 points in a bunch of games and still losing, guess whose fault that is? The defense. And as expected, their defensive coordinator got fired in about the same time span that Gerard Mayo did.
Immediately.
So, yeah. So, but to bring it back, we were talking about the Chiefs Broncos.
Yeah. we like to meander. It's okay. These are all interesting. These are all interesting timelines, right? Yeah.
We got to discuss.
What do we got? What do we have to discuss?
Bo Nix.
Him?
Is this boy the truth, dog? Like, what's this guy like? Look, I know we were playing the third stringers. I hear you. But even so, that stat line, boy's a
pretty
dog,
nice. Pretty nice. Got you questioning. I think he'll have a successful career based on what we've seen so far. I'm not going to say he's, I guess, quote unquote, the truth. I don't know, that is a little it's a little not measurable to me, but at the same, but fundamentals are sound, and the Broncos absolutely made the right decision by choosing to just throw him in there right away, because he was very much ready, and good for them. And yeah, I mean, good for them for making the playoffs in their first year with a quarterback. It's not easy to do. I mean, the Commanders just did it too, so good for them too. But yeah, you have a note in here that Sean Payton was comparing him to Breeze early on, and that's like, you have to question right away if this dude is smoking a little bit of that Colorado grass.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently he knew what he was talking about. And
yeah, what a surprise! Sean Payton knows how to coach a football team.
Yes, could have seen that coming.
Wait a second. So it's just like I honestly, I feel like just the football world at large has not really been talking about this quite as much as I think it maybe might deserve. Man, Sean Payton.
There's a lot of other headlines in the league, but yeah, I tend to agree, and I think actually that might be where the Broncos kind of want to be, though, is they want to be flying under the radar a little bit, maybe not be the center of attention. I mean, they weren't a playoff team until the last week of the season, so they're not necessarily, they haven't been huge news at any point quite yet, other than they made the playoffs for the first time since they won the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning, which is kind of cool. So
yes, and while that's true, I will say, the back half of the season, Bo Nix has been on fire. Like, I don't have every week memorized and whatnot, but I know, like, because I'm thinking about fantasy football, I know for a fact Bo Nix back half of the season on fire, and I'm not. Spoiler, when we get into the, talking about the games, I'm not going to pick the Broncos to win, but I'm nervous. As a Bills fan, I'm a little nervous for that game. We saw that Vegas has the Bills favored by 8.5 points. That's not reasonable. No, there's no way, with the way that Broncos defense is playing and the way that Sean Payton has willed that offense to play. There's no way that is that much of a blowout. I refuse to believe. I'm a little nervous. I'm gonna leave it there. I gotta. It's like, if I'm probably gonna pick a bet for the Broncos to win this game. Just throw a little, like $1 or something on it. Yeah, just a little something.
Little sprinkle, and you're getting paid for sadness too, because I know you're a Buffalo Bills fan. You live in Buffalo now. You gotta hedge your bets on that a little bit. I'll just read you this. Bo Nix on the season, 17 games, a 66% completion percentage, 3,775 yards, 29 touchdowns, 12 picks for a rookie.
It's not bad.
Good for him. I'm
guessing that's better than Mr. Williams. And who are the other quarterbacks taken ahead of him? Well, obviously Mr. Penix,
Drake May, and Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels had a great season too, so we shouldn't disrespect him too much at all.
I'm not going to disrespect Jaden.
No, but I think that those are very clearly your 1 and 2 if you were to redraft already. So,
which is crazy because Bo Nix was the consolation prize for being the 12th pick in the draft.
Yeah,
I don't think that's what they wanted.
5 quarterbacks taken in front of them. I mean, I think they probably were trying to trade up for JJ McCarthy too in the draft. I
think they were.
So yeah.
I
mean, again, happy for them. Will be interesting to see it, and I'm going to save my take on that game. I wanted to dive in based on what you said about this Broncos Bills matchup, but I'm going to save my take for later on when we talk about the games. But other games that mattered from a seeding standpoint, the Steelers failed to win their game against the Bengals. They would have been the 5 seed, which is an instant trip to Houston, who have looked very bad. So they were a candidate for me also for clown of the week to lose 4 straight games, blow the division, and now you're not even going to get the best wild card seed, and now you have to go on the road and play the Ravens. Good luck. You're done.
They look fucking awful.
They do. They're totally limping down the stretch.
It was crazy as a playoff team, George Pickens is completely checked out. And I don't understand what the fuck is going on there, bro. Like, how are you checked out of a playoff team? It's crazy that Mike Tomlin has a history of, picking these dudes up in the draft who, have questionable character concerns and blah, blah, blah. And Tomlin will get the best out of them. And then they, ship them off to elsewhere. And you can see, why it was Tomlin that was the one that was able to get something out of him. But Pickens, bro, like, do better, like, or do less, do more at the same time. Like, just
do the better stuff.
Just like, it's wild to me. Like, it blows my fucking mind. Like, I wish I was that much of an athlete so I could be in those locker rooms so I could understand how somebody could, come to that mentality of, fuck it. Like, I don't need the stupid bag that I could probably get if I actually applied myself and, competed on a playoff caliber team and was the sole reason why my offense clicked when I play better. And it's just like, it's kind of disappointing because, when the Steelers are good, like, it just makes the NFL world go round.
Yes.
And the
Steelers being a good team.
Yeah, they're definitely getting bound.
Having a season above 500, and you just don't want to be limping into the playoffs like that. I mean, every year we see those teams that are surging at the end, and this is very much the opposite. The
opposite. Yeah, it's just
the Ravens. They lose to the
spoiler
Bengals.
alert. Yeah. And it's not the Chargers. The Ravens.
The Ravens are going to the Ravens are we'll get there, but the Ravens, the team that was the 1 seed last year that had Super Bowl expectations, that lost to Mahomes in a crushing, soul crushing defeat last year. This is the team that gets a home game against a team that's lost 4 in a row, and you're gonna tell me the Steelers have a chance in this game? No, sorry. Bye.
Yeah.
Although asterisk, one thing I haven't put through my mind and put into the sort of the pot of ideas enough. Playoff Lamar, is he coming back? That's the other thing we have to be worried about.
I'm not disrespecting the MVP.
I understand. I'm not going to either on paper going into it, but product is not the same in the playoffs as it has been. So
agreed. Quick note before we move on to Bears sticking it to the Packers. Mike Evans, that guy. Congrats to that man. Enters rarefied air, tied for most consecutive seasons with 1,000+ yards with none other than Mr. Jerry Rice himself, the GOAT.
Amazing and really cool. I mean, did you see the energy on that final play that they ran? They could have knelt the ball twice and won the game. Instead, they line up to run a play. Evans needed 4 yards or something like that to do it. Yeah. But we could have the same argument, and I'm sure we could spend the rest of the episode talking about the Saquon decision for the Eagles in the exact same way, as far as whether or not the needs of the individual record takes precedence over the needs of the team. You don't want anybody to get hurt. The last thing you'd want is Mike Evans to tear his ACL on that play going into the playoffs. At the same time, I think the energy that they got from that one catch and that one play going into the playoffs now as the 3 seed was very much worth it. It's easy to say that in hindsight when nobody got hurt, but boy, what it reminded me of? It was pretty cool to see.
It felt like that energy was directly correlated to the same energy that Baker Mayfield brings to that team. It felt like Baker Mayfield just, I don't know, I can't explain it, but it felt like the embodiment of, like, it feels like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have taken on the energy and the aura, if you will, of Baker Mayfield. That's what that play felt like, and the celebration that ensued thereafter.
It was incredible. It was pretty darn cool to see. And I mean, it was cool that they were even able to do that, because if he's like 20 yards, I mean, what do you do if he's like 20 yards away? You know, he probably just misses
Hail Mary.
it. Right?
Hail Mary. Yes, sir.
Just chuck it. He's down there somewhere. Just, yeah, that would be super cool. Anyway, yeah, good for him. I was going to try to weave that one into when we were talking about the Bucs earlier, but there's always a lot. There's always a lot to talk about. The NFL is such a wonderful league, isn't it? Such a wonderful venue for sports.
It's literally the best league in sports.
Yes.
Period. I
absolutely agree with that. Shout out to my Minnesota Wild, are killing it in the NHL though, but that's a top topic for another podcast. I was amused, however, for another seeding failure here, blunder. The Bears hadn't beat the Packers in 11 matchups, dating back to 2018. In that span, Aaron Rodgers was famously quoted saying, "I still own you." Within that span, he then transferred ownership to Jordan Love when he left. Jordan Love gets hurt. Bears win on a last-second field goal. Big asterisk, because it was Huntley, Tyler Huntley playing. No, it wasn't Tyler Huntley. I can't remember who it was.
Malik Willis.
Malik Willis. I'm sorry. I was going to say, I kept wanting to say Malik Neighbors, and I'm like, that's not it. Malik Willis. Thank you. Anyway, so that was hilarious. They would have needed to win and have the Commanders lose, which neither one of those things happened. But at the same time, the Bears winning an emotional game at Lambeau to kind of spoil that. And now the Packers are stuck going to Philly and playing the Eagles. Christian Watson's out. That's going to be a beatdown, I would think, assuming Jalen Hurts is coming back.
I tend to agree. I
know you would struggle to say that for your own team.
I'm pretty confident. There's always the what ifs, but I'm pretty confident the way that this Eagles defense has been playing, and the kind of hot cold nature of that Packers offense. Pretty confident in the Eagles. But I don't know. I mean, what's his name? Jordan Love. He's not a scrub by any stretch of the imagination, but coming into the game, he's not going to be at 100%. That's for sure. So I'm pretty confident. But we'll see. And Josh Jacobs not a scrub himself, so we'll see.
No, but I think in general, over the course of 60 minutes, I mean, they're going to make their plays, and they're going to have a couple of I don't want to say necessarily big plays, but they'll have a few moments in the game where they show signs of life for sure. But I don't think they can repeat what they did last year as a 7 seed going into a 2 seed. That was Dallas and playoff Dak. That's different. The Eagles have that Super Bowl pedigree. They were there a couple of years ago. They got a chance to go back. Eagles Lions in the NFC Championship would be a phenomenal game. Phenomenal.
I would love to see the Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley stat line at the end of that.
Oh man,
is there AJ Brown versus on Raw?
Is there a
James
way to
Williams, Devonta Smith, Jalen Hurts, Jared Goff, which is kind of a crazy one to say, but that shit would be lit. Both of those defenses, even though the fucking Lions defense is a bunch of cashiers from Wegmans, crazy, bro. Crazy.
That game would go nuts. Doesn't matter. They can make. I said it before. I'll say it again. Chicken salad out of chicken shit. That's what they're doing in Detroit. They can do it with the best of them.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely amazing.
But we've been trying to talk about these playoff games, but we gotta sneak into the what y'all are here for. It's our Clown of the Week segment. We both are touching on the same team because they are doing everything in their power to earn it. Ren, I'm gonna let you go first.
Yeah, I mean, I have the specific one. You have the more general one. So I look forward to trying to tee you up for this as much as possible. Yeah, I already talked about some honorable mentions. I won't touch on them again. Teams that needed for seeding, for playoff seeding, that basically just blew it. But my Clown of the Week actually goes to the other side of the coin, the shit bowl. The New England Patriots, if they lose, they're the number 1 pick. You were number 3 pick last year. You drafted Drake May, although he's not Jaden Daniels or Bo Nix, he's shown signs of life. I'm sure they're going to give him another chance this coming year. So now you've got a number 1 pick, someone that you can pair with Drake May. Instead, let's go and win an absolutely meaningless game, celebrate, and go from the number 1 pick to the number 4 pick. You can't even suck right. You've been bad all year, and you find a way to suck at sucking. That's how bad you suck. You are the clown of the week, New England Patriots. And Kurtis is gonna go from there.
We're gonna just keep that shit rolling because my clown of the week is Robert Kraft. This motherfucker is trying his hardest to be Jerry Jones. Like, just I
saw that. The way that you phrased that is so disrespectful. Also to Jerry Jones,
bro. I'm like the moves that I'm seeing are just flabbergasting. And the thing that was the cherry on top for was, how do you fire Gerard Mayo? Like, that this man is coming into the position with very little coaching experience. Like, he was just a linebacker. I feel like I just remember seeing highlights of him on ESPN. And so you hire this guy, he's supposed to bring energy into the team, and you hire him, with this dog shit ass roster, and spoiler alert, he doesn't fucking turn it around in year 1. What a surprise. And then you fire him for what? Like, I sent you the video of Gronk that was about to go in on him, and it kind of inspired this clown of the week pick. And it made me think, like, going back, like, this is years in the making, because this all started back with Tom Brady. Like, you chose Bill Belichick over Tom Brady, and Tom Brady went on to go and win a Super Bowl the next year, to go and shit on you, bro. And then and then to reward yourself for choosing Bill Belichick over Tom Brady, you decide to move on from Bill Belichick, one of the greatest coaches in NFL history. And then it's just a continuing cascade of failures. And I understand what's going on, man. This dude's 83 years old. He's trying to salvage his legacy, and he wants to make his way into the Hall of Fame and whatnot. But he is taking a 20-year dynasty and doing his best work to run it into the ground as quickly and efficiently as possible. And it's just, I'm not going to say it's sad to watch, because fuck the Patriots, but it's just kind of wild, bro. Like, it's like, how do you fuck something up so bad, similar to Jerry Jones? Like, how do you have such, great talent on the roster, speaking about the Cowboys, and you can't capitalize on that at all over the past, decade and some change? Like, it's just, maybe it might even be 2 decades at this point for Jerry. I don't even know when's the last time the Cowboys were a serious, playoff threat. Yeah, it's honestly, it's unacceptable. And for that, Robert Kraft, clown of the week, dog. Like, do better.
Sounds like you need a clown of the last 5 years, even. So you got the Bengals as the clown of the season. You got the Patriots, the clown of the last 5 years.
I think so.
Or Jerry Jones, clown of the last 25 years.
Decade,
probably.
Maybe, yeah, something.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. So they're in a pretty bad way. We'll see what happens if they can turn it around. But man, with the people they have at the helm there, and especially Robert Kraft, I'm not holding my breath at all for that. Yeah. I like the callback to that Belichick versus Brady decision, because it's basically like, I mean, in those later years, everybody's wondering, is Belichick the Brady whisperer? Is Brady just that guy and making Belichick look so good? You picked one, and as they said in Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade, you have chosen poorly, sir.
Yeah. So, and I don't want to necessarily shit on Belichick, because that boy a dog. Like, some of those Patriots teams that they won with, like, they were not good on paper. No. Like, but it's kind of similar to what we're looking at with the Chiefs, this season, in my humble opinion. But
yep, 15-2 powerhouse for no reason,
with nothing. They got Mahomes, old ass Kelsey, and
nothing. I mean, couple of okay running backs.
Chris Jones on defense, but nothing. Yeah. So I don't know, man. Let's talk about it's time. Playoffs.
Playoffs.
It's time, bro.
Let's move on to the playoffs, and let's see here. So I want to go there. You can go there. So I might just kick it off if you're all right with that.
Yeah, go ahead. Hey, handle it, man.
Yep. All right. So we're going to do these. I think we'll do these in chronological order for when they'll air on TV. So first up on Saturday afternoon, we've got the Los Angeles Chargers visiting the Houston Texans, who also, much like the Pittsburgh Steelers, have found a way to limp their way into the playoffs here. Vegas says Chargers on the road, favored by 2.5 points and an over-under of 42. I have picked a score of Chargers 23-17. Kurtis has picked 27-21 Chargers. And by the way, if you want to see these picks, feel free to send us an email, footballclownsanonymous@gmail.com. We'll add you to view access on the spreadsheet so you can see all of these picks, and you don't have to Kurtis has hit me with a thumbs up, so you don't have to be writing all this down because these scores are going to be exact. So this is very valuable information, and we want to save you time. So send us an email. But anyway, I don't know what we already talked about the Chargers. Sort of Steelers rolling over basically and blowing their chance to get the 5 seed, and now the Chargers are the one that gets to date with the Houston Texans. Jim Harbaugh has made Justin Herbert look like the GOAT, like a future Hall of Famer. That team is rolling, and they will continue to roll against an offense that has been sputtering, stumbling, and bumbling really, honestly, for all year. I don't know that there's much else to say here, but I really like the Chargers in this game, and 2.5 points. I know it's on the road. 2.5 points is not enough. This is the team that scored 2 points against the Ravens on Christmas.
Yeah, I strong agree. I will be surprised if the Texans make this competitive. Jim Harbaugh he's got to be in the discussion for like one of the better coaches of all time. Like what he walked into and what he's been able to do with this Chargers team. I understand you got Justin Herbert, blah, 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 but similar to the Chiefs, I mean, what receivers he's got a rookie that's been balling out. Sure. That's been a nice revelation, but you also have Quentin Johnson as your wide receiver too, who was basically left for dead at the start of the season. I mean, he's been okay, but, not something that you're going to, bet the farm on or anything. J.K. Dobbins, who's been injury riddled, has been having himself quite a nice season. And spoiler alert, I've got him in one of my bets that I was perusing earlier. And just the way that the Texans have been floundering pretty much all season, and the only reason they're in the playoffs is because the AFC South in totality is just hot dog water. So it's kind of an easy Chargers pick for me. We've got close-ish games. I don't know if we disrespected the Texans enough, to be honest with you. But I mean, there's not much more to say here. The Chargers definitely take this and move on to play whoever they're going to be playing.
We're gonna do a live bet on this live on the show for this one. I'm gonna make sure that the line is still 2.5, because if it's 3, unfortunately it's 3 right now. I think I agree with you though. It's not enough. I think we should still take it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
because the Texans don't look good at all. So
no, they've done nothing to deserve any respect.
Nope, there's a smooth fiver going on there on behalf of Football Clowns Anonymous. You're welcome, Jim Harbaugh. Good luck. Beautiful. Good luck, boys.
Let's go ahead and move on to Pittsburgh, Baltimore. Vegas has Baltimore favored by 9.5, over under 43.5. We both have Baltimore beating the shit out of Pittsburgh. Ren's got it 34-13. I've got it 31-20. I don't know if we need to spend much time on this game. One interesting thing, Zay Flowers, I believe, is dealing with an injury. I don't know what it is off the top of my head. I don't know if he's going to be available for game time. I don't even know if that really matters to us that much. Zay Flowers, he's a dog, and he generates, explosive plays for them, but I don't know how much I care. That just given the way that this Pittsburgh team has been performing, I don't know if I care if Zay Flowers is playing or not.
No, I think it is less about the Ravens. I mean, the Ravens are a great football team, and Lamar wants revenge after losing to the Chiefs last year. This will not be the moment that he's in any sort of tangible danger. It's more about the Steelers, and they're just stumbling over their own feet for the last 4 games of the season. For me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and again, we talked about George Pickens and how he is in a weird way, kind of the engine of the offense. When he cares, the offense performs. When he doesn't care, Russell Wilson turns into a pumpkin again. Is he going to care in the playoffs? Which is a crazy question to ask. I don't know, which is probably an even crazier answer to have to that question. Yeah, Baltimore. We're taking the MVP.
I can't believe that there's talk of Tomlin being on the hot seat right now, or maybe not being on the hot seat, like getting fired, but there's talk that Pittsburgh would try to trade him, which I can't see that. Like it's not the end of the season that you wanted, and after they lose this game, you're not having too many warm fuzzies. I get it, but you can't go with Tom. You can't get rid of him until he has a losing season, ever, in any circumstance, until he has a losing season.
Man.
What do you got? What do you got for me?
That's a conversation that I think we could take a lot of time on, because you could start and think about, okay, well, who brought in Arthur Smith? Who brought in George Pickens? Like, who was supposed to be I'm guessing, draft night, George Pickens had his, his red flags on draft night. And I'm sure it was a conversation with Tomlin, like, are you going to be able to handle this boy or nah? And Tom was like, yo, you didn't see what I did with Deontay? You didn't see what I did with, Antonio Brown? And, that hasn't really worked out the way it was supposed to. Arthur Smith has been good, not great. I'm sure the whole Russell Wilson and Justin Fields thing, I'm sure Tomlin had a hand in both of those, and you didn't. You made the midseason switch to Justin Fields when he was winning games, to Russell Wilson and he's winning games, but not quite as convincingly as you maybe would have hoped. I'm basically, all I'm saying is Tomlin, I'm sure, had his tentacles and all of that shit. And it's about to result in a flame out by the end of the season. So I don't know. I don't know if you could fire Mike Tomlin. I don't know if you could trade him, but I can understand why the whispers are there, I guess, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I still feel like, I know he's had a bad playoff record the last 10, 15 years or something like that. But until he has a losing season, I just think any year that you're in a position, at least in a strong position to make the playoffs, if you don't make it, it's tough to let go of somebody like that. But I agree with you. That's a longer conversation. And I think, we still got 4 more games here to get to. I actually think, considering the next 2 games here are hosted by your 2 favorite teams, you should just take the next 2, and I'll wrap up with the last 2.
I think Denver-Buffalo is the most intriguing game of the weekend, for the reasons that we noted earlier. So Vegas has Buffalo favored by 8.5 points. I already mentioned that I think that's way too much. Over under 46.5. Sure. I've got Buffalo winning 31-28. I think it will be a little bit of a shootout. You've got a much more convincing 34-16 win by Buffalo. Buffalo's defense has not necessarily been stout all year. Denver's offense has been surprisingly efficient in, putting points on the board. Bo Nix is good for 250 and, 2 or 3 touchdowns and probably another 50, 60 yards on the ground. The run game has been, finding a little bit of success, and the Bills' run defense is, it's not great. Like, there is a world in which the Broncos, that's what I'm predicting. In which the Broncos, make this a much more interesting game than I think a lot of folks. And I think this goes back to the, the Broncos have been kind of sort of flying under the radar. They snuck into the 7th seed by, taking care of business when their fate was in their own hands. I don't know, man. I just think that giving 8.5 points against Sean Payton, I don't know if I agree with that. Go ahead.
It is an awful lot of points. But I'm fading rookie quarterbacks in playoff games, and that's a trend that you're going to see in the next in a couple of games here, that when it comes up here as well. it is not a lack of belief in Bo Nix as an NFL quarterback. I think we already talked about him. I think he was the right decision to start. He's going to be good next year again. I just think this is too much. This is the moment that ends up being a little bit too much for him and for this team with these sort of young growing pains that you have with any rookie quarterback. This Buffalo Bills team is built to win a Super Bowl. They took their starters rested last week. They are going to come into this game not hungry, starving for success in the playoffs. And Denver Broncos, to me, are the first stepping stone on that. I'm not saying the Broncos are going to do horribly. I think I probably disrespected them a little bit too much, but I see the Bills putting together a really complete effort in this game and survive and advance to the next round. We'll see. Again, it's not necessarily a lack of belief in Bo Nix overall, but I've now been there too. That's a hard place to play. I don't know to be fair, I haven't looked at the weather, but that is a tough place to play. People are going to be going through tables before the game, drunk out of their minds, screaming all kinds of obscenities at Bo Nix when he's on the field. I don't know. We'll see.
High of 29, little bit of chance of preset.
Okay. So
maybe some flurries. Yeah.
So not any worse than it could be in Denver. I was going to say if it was one of those whiteout type of games, I'd be worried about Bo Nix in that situation too, in the elements, perhaps.
Yeah.
Whatever that snow game was that Josh Allen like Superman towards the pylon. I don't remember who they were playing, but it was glorious. It was glorious. Right. Must watch TV. So we'll see. But I will come back to the Bills when we talk bets.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and move on. We've got the Packers traveling to Philly. Vegas has Philly favored by 4.5, over under 45.5. We both have the Eagles scoring 27. Ren, you've got the Packers with 23. I've got the Packers with 20. I think we already touched on this game enough. The Eagles, that offense pretty damn complete. That defense surging late. The Packers limping into the playoffs, quite literally. Jordan Love nursing an elbow. Christian Watson with the ACL.
Lost their last two.
Yeah, lost their last two. One to a terrible Bears team. That's a tough to your environment. Point with the Bills. The Philly is that fan base degenerates, all of them. It's not a comfy place to play some football, especially when you're hurting. It's just too much. It's just too much. There's no way.
Yeah, I like the Eagles a lot in this game, but I think the number is pretty close to right. I would be a little bit nervous about taking Philly with the points just because I do think this Packers team can hang around, but Philly should win this game. And I think there is a world in which it's not particularly close, but I still don't want to throw playoff Jordan Love under the bus too much either, because he did put up some great numbers last year in his two playoff games, including we mentioned earlier, upsetting a 2 seed on the road in against Dallas. So different team that you're beating there, but still, we'll see how that plays out. And it is a little unsettling. I'll take a pause here and just say it's a little unsettling that we agree so much, because we should just honestly bet the opposite of everything we think. I know we shouldn't do that. That's not a good strategy, but it's like I see us line up and I'm just like, man, what are we missing? Is there something we're missing?
Yeah, because again, to reiterate, we make these picks blind. Like, I didn't know what Ren's scores were when I put in my scores, and then we kind of reveal to each other. So basically, we turn the columns back to black, if you will. It is kind of interesting, and we have definitely synced up as the the season has gone on. So it's kind of fascinating how that works out. And you'll see that with this next game. Actually,
this one is this is a little startling when you see this. So again, we don't make our picks together. We got the Washington Football Commanders visiting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, quarterbacked by Goat Mayfield himself. We both have the Washington Commanders scoring exactly 17 points, and I gave the Bucs 27, and Kurtis gave them 28. So we are locked in on this game, and we really see a kind of a beatdown here by Baker Mayfield and the Bucks on Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. And I would say, from my own argument here, it's the same one I make about Bo Nix. Tampa Bay is not the powerhouse that the Bills are, in my opinion, but this is a very confident team with a lot of experience, and they're feeling that Mike Evans 1,000-yard catch at the end of the game, and Baker has put these guys in a great position, and I just think it's a little too much for a rookie quarterback. No disrespect intended to Jaden Daniels in the bigger picture, and they will not get embarrassed in this game, I don't think, completely embarrassed, but I do think that the Bucs are going to win this game by a reasonable margin, I would say.
Yeah, I think I'm sure it'll be close all the way up until the Bucs, have that late score to kind of put the game away. And again, I agree. This is no respect to Mr. Daniels, but the Baker Mayfield and the vibes that they've got going on in Tampa Bay, I think it's just too much. Like I think it gets them to the divisional round, and we'll see what's really going on at that point. But I don't know, man. That outside of this performance that they just had against the Saints this past week, that Tampa Bay team has been pretty locked in. Like even when Chris Godwin went down, like they've been pretty locked in all season. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. The Commanders have shown some cracks. So let's roll with the Bucs here.
Yeah, no, I did, and I just placed a bet. Unfortunately, that line is also 3 at the moment, which is a tough place to play it, because then you end up with the possibility that you're going to push, which is not good for your bottom line. But rather it be 2.5, but you take what you can get, because we do think that this is going to be somewhat convincing. Last but not least, my honorable mention for Clown of the Week, Minnesota Vikings. Fresh off of their steamrolling by the Detroit Lions, will travel to LA, to face one of only 2 teams that has beaten them this year in the same exact venue rematch. Gosh, if only we had ever seen the Vikings lose to Detroit and then fly to LA right afterwards and lose too. Oh, gasp. Never seen that before. But anyway, I've got the Rams winning 27-24. Kurtis has the Rams winning 24-21. So we both got a field goal game for the Rams. The Vikings are actually favored by 1.5 on the road here. I did see it open at 2.5 point favorite, and that line has moved actually a little bit. Total being 47.5 is probably in the right spot for points. So obviously we both have the Vikings bouncing back a little bit after getting embarrassed yesterday by the Detroit Lions. But in the end, I think this Rams team is, obviously it's a home game, that helps. But Matt Stafford has his receivers back. He's got a lot of experience. They won the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. So I think that this is a secondary that can be exploited for a couple of big plays here and there. They're going to make it really hard for the Vikings defense to get off the field, even though it's been especially a good run defense all year. But I think that those receivers, much like they did in the game in week 6 or 7, whatever it was, this is a rematch of, those Rams receivers are going to eat in this game and make it really hard for the Vikings to win the time of possession battle. And in the end, Vikings will get their points, they'll get their scores and things like that too. But I just think that's going to end up being the difference. Those receivers.
Yeah, I don't think I have much more to add. I mean, we kind of touched on this earlier when we were ranting about the Vikings. It's just honestly it just kind of comes down to a little bit of an experience play in terms of the quarterback for me. Stafford, like he's that guy. Like that in my humble opinion, that's a Hall of Famer right there. Like he's been there, done that. We've got the questions about Sam Darnold being able to be there and do that. So let's find out. I would like to be proven wrong for your sake, but I don't think so. Not this time.
Nope, I don't think so. That's where and at the very least, like the money line play is plus money right now. It's at least a coin flip, if not, probably should be the wrong team being favored here. So we'll see what happens. But I'll be solo dad next week, so this will be the Vikings playoff game in my life that I watch the least. While I'm putting my son to bed, I'll be like, "Come on, man, go to sleep. I just need you to go to sleep. I'm missing valuable football time here."
That man needs to get on those hills and start running some hills, and he'll go to sleep probably by like 5:30.
He just moved up to a different classroom, so he's was really tired today, and maybe we can keep that going for next Monday and put him to bed at a nice easy 6:30. But we'll
nice.
see. Yeah, we'll see. So let's move on maybe to the last segment we've got here. I only have one bet to talk about, and I'm very excited about it. I did a 4-unit play on it. Actually, I have 2 4-unit plays. One is Rams money line because I have no respect for the Vikings in the playoffs. The other one, and we're going to call back to the regular season, I'm going to throw my scholar hat on for this one because this one feels really good. 2-team 6-point teaser. The Buffalo Bills from -8.5 down to -2.5. Basically, they just need to win the game by a field goal. And I think they are going to absolutely do that against Bo Nix, rookie quarterback. Pair that teaser leg with Rams. When I got it, it was +2.5. I got them all the way up to +8.5. No way they get blown out by that Vikings team that we just saw. If you go back, and I did this last night just to make myself feel really bad about myself. If you go back, the Vikings, they have 14 wins this year. Good job. Only 3 of them were against playoff teams. And 2 of it was the Packers twice and only by 2 points. The other one was the Houston Texans, who should not be a playoff team. They don't beat good teams. This is no exception. I digress. It's the scholar signing out.
That's interesting because when we looked at that schedule on paper at the beginning of the season, it was a gauntlet, which is kind of fascinating to think about.
That changed. When you look at it in hindsight at the end of the season, that changed.
Yeah. No, it's a phenomenal teaser. I like that. I actually kind of like the Broncos +8.5. I think that feels pretty safe to me. I've already stated that case. But while I was waiting for recording to start, I was kind of perusing DK and I was looking at some, game props, player props, whatever. And I saw some ones that jumped out to me. I don't know if I'm going to throw any dollars on this yet, but I've just floating them out there because they caught my eye. J.K. Dobbins, 70+ rushing yards against that Houston Texans defense. Man, it's at +125. That might deserve a little bit of money because if it's the blowout that I'm thinking is going to be with the rushing offense that I know that Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman like to run, 70 yards feels pretty much like a lock to me. JK has been looking pretty good these past couple of weeks coming off injury. I think I might have to throw a little $1 or $2 on that. Jaden Reed, 50 yards receiving is +105. Seems pretty fucking ridiculous, especially since Christian Watson is out with an ACL. So you compress the receiving options to a handful. They're going to have to throw because it's gonna if they want to win, they're going to need to put on points. That one feels pretty easy. Brian Robinson Jr., 50+ rushing yards. I don't know why that's so low. Is that +105? I maybe Vegas knows something I don't. I haven't been watching Washington football that much, but that felt really low. And one that I thought was pretty fun, Baker Mayfield, 25+ yards rushing, +140. Baker's good for a good little scamper, once a game. And that it's not really outside of the realm of possibility to see him, eclipse that 25 yards rushing. So I think that was another interesting one that caught my eye. But if y'all are taking my advice, which don't, because this is not professional, legal, or what are all the disclaimers we're supposed to say? This is not legal advice or
this is not investment advice. This is not investment advice or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't follow our suggestions. But Broncos +8.5, lock it in.
Fair enough. I like it. I'm in my betting account right now while you're talking about these things. You're like whispering in my ear right now in some sort of way, and I'm gonna throw more money than I should on Baker Mayfield 25+ rushing yards because that number seems too low.
It feels good. It feels
the
good.
way that he gets fired up and gets away, like slips away from the pressure and just darts up the middle for
he's good for 1 to 2 of those yards.
Games. Yep, exactly. Yeah. Yep, that'll be fun to watch. The last item I had on here actually was what's if we're feeling it, let's place a money line parlay on these games. Who's advancing, sir? I like the Chargers.
Chargers
to advance. Ravens to advance is a good one. That's -500. I hate the value you get there, but let's stay away from the Bills for that reason because you have the concerns about Bo Nix and they're -425, so that's not a ton of value there either. Eagles.
Do the Eagles. Let's do the Eagles.
Eagles minus 205.
I want to stay away from the Buccaneers because if I wasn't doing this blind betting stuff and I was just looking at DK just kind of randomly, I'd probably take the Commanders to cover that.
That's fair. Well, we could take the command. Well, yeah, that's
no.
Let's not do that.
I don't, especially after what the Buccaneers just did, that performance they just put up with the Saints. I don't.
The emotional pouring out.
Well, but also almost losing.
Yeah, they had to work really hard in that game, harder than they should have. Chargers, Ravens, Eagles, and I'm going to throw the Rams in there because we already know.
Gotcha.
Plus 483. Let's do it.
Oh, I like that. That sounds good.
Let's do it. All right. Well, good luck to us, and good luck to all of you. I'll let you do the formal sign off. You brought us in. I'll let you do the formal out.
With that, I mean, I think that's a good episode. We had some good discussion today. You got some good bets out of us. Happy playoff season.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And with that, we'll talk to you next week.
Excellent. Good luck, everyone.
Yep. Peace.